We just passed.
You can hear? Okay. But we were in that area. We were going to you are yeah, oh, you are like camera ready.
Gosh.
How are you?
Yeah. No thanks.
I would have started by saying I didn't know I was debating state now. I was gonna start.
No, there's another camera. I used to work for you. Yeah.
Now it is, yeah. We're gonna test the mics here for a second so we don't get feedback. I'm sorry?
I know. Thanks, Roy.
Okay. Make sure we don't have any feedback, we're good, all right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jennifer McDonald, and I'm president of the Licking County Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank the handful of people that we do have in the audience, but also those watching on Facebook Live for joining us for the 2020 Licking County Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum. And first and foremost, if you'd please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And on behalf of the Licking County Chamber of Commerce and a few of the people in the audience that are from our Government Affairs Committee, I'd like to thank the candidates running for the 71st and 72nd Ohio House for being part of today's program. I'd also like to thank our event sponsors, Park National Bank, the Newark Advocate, and WNKO Cool 101.7 FM radio. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our moderator for the program, who will explain the format and introduce the candidates, WNKO WHTH News Director, Dave Doney.
Thank you very much, Jennifer, and welcome, as Jennifer said, to the Candidates Forum and your MC for today, Dave Doney. So I'd like to take this moment, if I could please, to ask Mr. Frazier and Mr. Carr to join me up here at the table. Also, I'm going to take a minute or two to explain the format of today's debate. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for introductions and 2 minutes for closing statements. We will be asking the candidates 5 questions, and we'll rotate who answers first. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer each question, and will have the opportunity to offer a 30-second rebuttal to the other's response. I will stress 90 seconds and 30 seconds so everyone understands. In front of you is Brittany Meisner, Vice President of the Chamber of Commerce. She will be timing your responses and will give you a 30-second and 15-second warning sign. Your time is running up, and finally a stop sign. The questions are a mixture of ones posed from the Chamber's Government Affairs Committee as well as from the community. They submitted those via email and other social media. Due to COVID-19, again, we only have a handful of attendees here with us. That's why we are streaming these live for you to view. You can view it now, or obviously if you're watching now, or on playback later. First on the docket, we will be featuring the candidates running for the 71st Ohio District seat, appointed incumbent State Representative Mark Frazier and his opponent Mark Carr. Gentlemen, before we get started, do either one of you have any questions about today's format? Mr. Carr, we will start with you. Or excuse me, I guess we'll be starting with Representative Frazier. So if you could give us an introduction of yourself.
Can you guys hear me? My name is Mark Frazier. I'm the current representative for the 71st House District. I grew up in Newark, Ohio, graduated from Newark High School, went to Otterbein College, got a degree in business with a minor in economics. When I graduated, it was a very similar economic time to what we've seen. A lot of people that were young, trying to figure out what to do with their careers, a lot of concern about the opportunity in this country for people with college degrees or seeking employment for the first time. I took a job as a part-time teller at Park National Bank and making $8.07 an hour. And from there, over the next 2 years, I moved up the Park National Bank ladder and became an IT project manager, a career that I continue to this day. And I'm very proud of hard work, education, and opportunity being a foundation of kind of what my core beliefs are in this country. And as I continue to represent the 71st House District, I've been very dedicated to try to make sure that we focus on economic recovery, that we ensure that our kids are being educated, that we look at major reform in order to improve the state of Ohio. We look at access to healthcare and improvements that provide longevity for the investment that we see in our communities. When it comes to the opportunity that I have here, I spent some time on Newark City Council for 4 years before my appointment. I really tried to dedicate my efforts to make sure that everybody has equal opportunity and equal access. I take the time to call constituents back. I care about this community and these other communities in the district. It's been a blessing to learn about all the diversity that we have in the various communities in Licking County and continue to fight for the opportunity that you can receive a quality education, that you can have gainful employment, and that we have partnerships at all levels of government to provide for better communities and opportunity in this community.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier. Mr. Carr, you now have 2 minutes for your introduction.
Thank you. My name is Mark Carr, and first I want to say thank you to Jennifer and the rest of the chamber for having me today. To Mr. Frazier, I want to say congratulations on your second child. I am the father to 2 children, and I'll tell you that the second child changes the game. So my name is Mark Carr. I'm going to read really fast. I thought I had a little bit more time. So my name is Mark Carr. My husband Rex and I and our 2 children live here in Newark. I work for a drug selling company. Rex is the PE teacher for Granville Middle School and High School. My daughter Mary Ellen, who is 6, is in first grade at Legend Elementary, go Eagles. And Tristan just started kindergarten. Our son, he's 5. And so we're a bit of a divided household between the Aces and the Eagles. So as I sat down last night to put my thoughts together about what I would say today, I thought I decided to start with a quote. I love quotes, and I have a ton of them. One of my favorites is by Maya Angelou, and it says, "Do the best you can until you know better. And then when you know better, you do better." I love it. I live my life by that one. Another one that I love is, "You can't boil the ocean." Now, I'll share with you that when I heard you can't boil the ocean, I had literally no idea what it meant, but it literally meant you cannot boil the ocean, so it's an impossible task. And I do that today when I lead my team at 31 Gifts where I work now. We say we don't have to boil the ocean. But I'll share with you that one of my favorite quotes, it's one of the ones that I learned early on as a little kid growing up on welfare and food stamps in Ashland County, is "A rising tide lifts all boats" by JFK. And I'll share with you, when I heard that quote, when I hear that quote, I think, oh my goodness, I have 30 seconds. A rising tide truly does lift all boats, and it's so optimistic. But when I was thinking about the rising tide, unfortunately right now, and in this district, there are a lot of people whose tide is rising, and I fall into that category. But the people that I talk to every single day who have multiple jobs and are looking for just some relief right now in this tough economic times because of COVID, their boat is not rising. And so I want to help them rise together so that nobody has a boat that's ran aground. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. We will start with you for our first question. What is your highest priority once you are in office? How will you and the citizens of Licking County know if you were successful on this item?
Well, I think right now the biggest thing we have to do is make sure that people are working and people are having an income. You know, right now I spend my days driving through a lot of drive-throughs, and I always tell people I order lots of coffee at drive-throughs, but I don't drink most of them. I throw most of them away. But what I do is I drive through the drive-throughs and I ask people, may I ask you a question? And they'll say yes, kind of apprehensively, and I'll say, how many jobs do you have? And the lady that I just talked to yesterday said, you mean during the day? And I had a lump in my throat, and I guess, during the day. Because she has one job during the day, and she has another job at night. And she has 3 kids at home, and a husband who's not working because he got laid off because of COVID. So the very first thing we have to do for this district is to get people back to work in some shape or form. Or if we can't do that because it's unsafe because of the virus still, we have got to get them some assistance. We are facing a crisis in this district where there are people who are about to lose their homes and there are people about to lose their apartments because they can't pay the rent. And so that would be the very first thing. The other two things are, the other thing really is systemic racism and the Black Lives Matter movement that's happening right here in Newark. And I said before, I've been to about 12 of them, 5 right here in Newark, and I've spoken at all of them. And so right now there are people in this district who are hurting because of the effects of systemic racism, and I want to address that immediately.
Thank you. Mr. Frazier, I will ask you the same question. What is your highest priority once you are in office? How will you and the citizens of Licking County know if you were successful on this item?
I always ask people to judge me on my last tenure, right? When I was on city council for the first time, I said, look at me 4 years from now and look at the accomplishments that I've done and make your decision on whether I deserve re-election or not. I've had 10 months in the office right now. We passed House Bill 614, which resolves the unemployment issue that we have where people are qualified for unemployment due to loss of jobs because of no fault of their own. Yet when they file for unemployment, it takes weeks and it takes months in order for them to get their first check. As part of that too, we have $650 million that's being paid to go down to local municipalities from federal CARES relief dollars in order to provide opportunities for business to sustain themselves, opportunities for individuals to get the assistance that they need, and to provide for ongoing opportunities in our communities. When it comes to economic recovery, in March we had about 3.6% unemployment in Licking County. Now we're at about 7.3% according to the Fed. Ultimately, what we need to do is continue to provide relief for businesses, provide relief for school districts, provide relief to the other organizations in our community. We need to save our stages, we need to support our hospitals, we need to support our nursing homes, we need to support those aspects of our community that have been devastated by COVID-19. Also with that, we need to do some major reforms. We need to modernize our state system. We need to make sure that our infrastructure is sound in our community. We need to continue to invest in appropriate priorities in our district.
You have 30 seconds if you would like to rebuttal.
Sure, and the last time that Mr. Frazier and I spoke was with the editorial board, and he stated all the things that he's been able to do, and I'll share with you that as a constituent of his, I'm glad that he's doing those things. But I'll share with you that it has to be more. So you can do those things and pass those laws, and that's really what is expected of you at minimum. But there are people who are hurting in this community, and you are nowhere to be found.
Mr. Frazier, 30 seconds.
When you go from outside of the community to a new community, I'm 4th generation Newark. My family grew up in poverty in this community. My great-grandfather moved from house to house. And when it comes to an aspect of being in this community and caring about this community, it's nice when you run for office that you decide to show up at events. It's when you've been doing it for years and years and caring about this community that it's the big difference.
Thank you. Mr. Frazier, this next question is for you. What is your opinion on the state's response to COVID, and what would you propose to get us back to where we were economically pre-COVID?
The biggest issue that we have with the government mandates from the top down is A, it doesn't empower the local health departments and the local jurisdictions in order to make sound decisions that's in the best interest of the people that they serve. So what we see is state mandates to the local health departments that are often confusing or not necessarily relevant. And then what we also see is an interpretation issue. And so ultimately, we need the government to step back on the state level, empower the local governments to make the appropriate health decisions for their constituents, make sure that everybody understands what the rules are, restore that business confidence so people can understand that they can go in their community, they can shop, and they can go to restaurants, and allow the businesses to comply with the rules. It's this ever-changing mandate, an ever-changing Thursday afternoon press conference guidelines where the rules are being redefined for businesses that's destroying business confidence and consumer confidence. We need to make sure that we create a transparency, that we have appropriate data, we're making the appropriate decisions based on that data, and it's not left for individual businesses to be stuck on an island to try to follow the rules that are ever changing and doesn't make sense.
Thank you. Mr. Carr, same question. What is your opinion on the state's response to COVID, and what would you propose to get us back to where we were economically pre-COVID?
I think that there are times when we do a really great job. And I think DeWine does a great job on some days, and then other days it does change. So I agree with my opponent that it changes, but I'll share with you that some things don't change. I shared with you that I have a 5-year-old son and a 6-year-old daughter. They can tell you right now what is the mandate in this district in which we live. They know when they get out of the car, they have to put a mask on. They know when they go to a restaurant, they have to wear it into the restaurant, and they can take it off when we get into the restaurant. It's not confusing. I think if it's being confused, and it is confusing, there are people like my opponent who are making it that way. I'll share with you, my opponent was also part of the coalition that tried to limit the authority of our health director, Dr. Atkin, right? Here's the thing. I, as a legislator, hear me now, and you can put this in print, never ever should be dictating what is the health policy for Licking County in District 71. It's not. I'm a sales director. Ask me about directing sales. Do not ask me about health directives in the middle of a global pandemic. I don't have any business there.
Mr. Frazier?
Thank you, Dave. When it comes to the health committee, the insurance committee, every day we look at health policy, insurance policy, and we make rules and regulations for the benefit of our constituents. It is the legislative duty to look at what is the policy and what is the law and make modifications. That's why it's called an Ohio Revised Code. When it comes to quarantining healthy people, there's a real struggle with the mandate and the powers that are in the ORC to enable that. When it comes to ongoing no checks and balances to executive orders and health orders, we absolutely need to reevaluate that.
Mr. Carr, you have 30 seconds.
Sure, it sounds like the status quo, and here's the thing, yeah, it is a legislative job to sit down and do that, but again, this is where you call people in who are experts in health. You don't call the person who worked his way up at the bank. You don't call the guy who started out folding shirts at Macy's and now directs a sales team of 10,000. You don't do that, but what you do is you call the right people around at the table. And so again, it can't be the status quo. We have no business determining what those health issues are, policies.
Mr. Carr, this next question is for you. What would you do in your role as state representative to improve the negative partisan political environment that is so prevalent throughout society at this time?
So I have a job description as the Director of Market Development, and then I think yesterday I got a new role at my job, and I'm excited about it. But I'll share with you that building relationships is actually in my job description. It's what I get paid for every single day. I'm an executive at 31, and I do that, and I am that person because I'm proficient at building relationships. And so when you talk about working across the aisle and things like that that are partisan, this is literally what I do every day. I get into appropriate confrontation with people every day. And what I do is they persuade me or I persuade them, and then we say, you know what, that's fair, and we move forward. I never dig my heels in, especially when it comes to the lives of people in this district, and I won't. And so this isn't where I'm at on a scale of moderate or conservative or socialist or whatever it is. This means I'm going to do exactly what it takes to serve the people of this community, regardless of party.
Mr. Frazier, same question. I'll repeat the question for you. What would you do in your role as state representative to improve the negative partisan political environment that is so prevalent throughout society at this time?
So usually it's having the appropriate conversations with the appropriate people. I'm having a joint sponsorship right now in order to make sure that children that are at the poorest of the poor have opportunity to health care from 18 to 26, because a lot of these medical procedures cannot be done until they're of that age range. And so as we find common sense solutions to issues, my bill passed, I believe, 89-2 or something. So appropriate policy that is not partisan, that makes sure that we're solving and getting results for the people of Ohio. My focus has always been the same: care for everybody, equality under the law, and equal opportunity. And when it comes to where I prioritize, it's what do we do for transportation? What are we doing for access to healthcare? Prioritizing bills for telehealth, prioritizing bills for unemployment compensation, trying to make sure that we have economic development opportunities in our community. What I typically see is people that are uninformed on the subject saying that, hey, there's no good work being done in the State House, and it's people that are uninformed or unimaginative that don't want to find the common sense solutions. And so my priority is to represent the people well. I'm going to continue to do that. I'm going to take the time and talk to my constituents and understand their priorities and understanding what the needs of our community is. And when it comes to continuing in the job, I'm going to put the focus on good policy, opportunity, and representing the people well.
Mr. Carl?
Sure. So one of the things that I'm most proud of is my foundation of standing on people over policy. And as I hear my opponent talk, again, he's passing good policy, but I'm not wowed by that. And I don't think people at home, you should be wowed by it either. That's the expectation. That's literally his job that our tax dollars paid for. But I'll tell you, when you talk about uninformed people, I will share with you, I talk to people every single day who never had one conversation with my opponent. And they're people of color, they're LGBTQ people, and he is not there for them right now.
30 seconds, Mr. Kirby.
They're welcome to call my office. They're welcome to send an email, and I will call them back directly. And when it comes to this rhetoric that we hear from the left, it's that we're out of touch and uninformed. People that come outside and come to our community and say we're the ones out of touch is where I really kind of draw the line at. Where I'm from this community, I'm passionate and I care, and I'm there because I want good representation and good government. I'm going to fight for telehealth. I'm going to fight for unemployment compensation reform. And I'm going to fight for campaign finance reform. And my constituents want that. They want results, and that's what I'm going to deliver.
Mr. Frazier, this question is for you. What is your opinion on voting in person during this time? And are you worried about voter fraud with mail-in voting?
So Ohio is very unique on the way that we have structured absentee voting, and it's multiple states have the same structure of a solicited ballot. So you fill out an absentee ballot request, it goes, they send you the ballot, it confirms your address, your signature, what district that you're in, everything like that. That is a check that's there for a reason, to make sure that we get the right ballot, that you are who you say you are, and to make sure that we identify you and we process your ballot appropriately. When it comes to absentee voting, filling out your ballot wrong is one of the major issues that we see. So voting in person kind of negates that issue where you select the wrong type of election, you fill out the wrong date, you forget to fill out a person's voting. When it comes to going to the county board of elections early or voting at the polls on the day of, you kind of mitigate that issue. If you want to vote by mail, Ohio has it structured appropriately. You can feel confident that once your ballot request goes in, you receive your ballot and you return it. The other issue to caution about is the 3-day turnaround time for requesting the ballot. The Postal Service really struggles with that. That really needs to be 7-day. If you plan to vote early by mail, please request it as early as possible. Do not wait until the last minute. And you can always go to the Board of Elections and cast your ballot. Also, we have drop boxes, and if you can drop your ballot off to make sure that it doesn't get caught in transit. So I think that Ohio has structured it appropriately. You can have confidence that if you want to vote by mail to mitigate any COVID-19 or fear, you absolutely can, but make sure you follow those guidelines.
Mr. Carr, I'll repeat the question for you. What is your opinion on voting in person during this time? And are you worried about voter fraud with mail-in voting?
I am not worried about voter fraud with mail-in voting. There's never been a problem with it. I think that's national. It's funny you want to talk about rhetoric. I think that's a national rhetoric. I think that if you want to vote in person, you can vote in person. If you want to vote absentee, you can absolutely do that. There's no reason that you can't.
Anything, Mr. Frazier? 30 seconds if you'd like.
I want to take my 30 seconds to thank Dave Downey, the Licking County Chamber of Commerce, the sponsors, and everybody for having this event. I also want to thank my wife, Megan, our child, Willow, and our newborn son, Charlie. And I usually do that at the beginning, but since I get 30 seconds, I'm going to take this time and thank you all for coming, watching, and participating.
Mr. Carr? Any rebuttal? I don't know how you could rebut that one, but our final question, and it's for Mr. Carr. If elected, what programs and initiatives would you endorse, fund, or start to help show the positive aspects of your community and to market our county as a great place to live and work, and why?
Well, I'll share with you as I look at Jennifer and the chamber and things like Explore Licking County and all the great efforts that are already being done. Grow Licking County, there are already things being done here that are really fantastic. It's never been, that's not really an area of opportunity for me. I think that one of the things that my opponent keeps talking about and wants people to know that I haven't been here, I'm not fourth generation, but I'll share with you, for those watching at home, that I will represent you even if you just moved here tomorrow or 4 years ago, like me. I think saying anything otherwise makes us doesn't make people want to move here if this is the attitude from the current state rep, quite frankly. I want everybody to come here. It's a very welcoming place. When we moved here from New Albany, we were welcomed with open arms. We found a church quickly. We found a community quickly. And again, there are great programs here. I think it would take you years to figure out how to do every single thing that the Chamber and Explore Licking County actually have out there for you to do. There is so much to do in this district. And so I think we would just continue to highlight the things. I think that there are areas of opportunity that we could look at so that we can identify and attract more different, culturally different, sexually orientation different segments of community, because again, it's a wonderful district. It is not just Newark, Ohio, and I know sometimes it sounds like that, but it literally is great parts of Reynoldsburg where they have a wonderful Nepali community now, and so I would just continue to highlight the things we're doing and then add in some diversity.
Mr. Frazier, I'll repeat the question for you. If elected, what programs and initiatives would you endorse, fund, or start to help show the positive aspects of our community and to market our county as a great place to live and work, and why?
I often tout the family being here because it takes time to understand Licking County and the people that here and the people that make it great. And we're not Columbus, we're not Appalachia. We are Newark, Ohio, Johnstown, Ohio, Pickerington, Reynoldsburg, Utica, and there's unique communities that make us special. The Licking County Chamber of Commerce does a great work. Ohio Chamber of Commerce endorsed me as well, and we actually spent some time with the Licking County Chamber of Commerce to communicate the PPP programs. We've had 1,500 businesses at a minimum receive those PPP grants to stabilize. We need to continue to market Licking County. We need to zone the townships, Western Licking County, appropriately for growth and opportunity. We need to work on water and wastewater for Western Licking County to make sure that we have the infrastructure necessary to have the next phase of development along the 161 corridor. I will prioritize the infrastructure investment components. I'm going to prioritize the tourism and trade components. We're going to try to get more relief out to these organizations so that they can sustain themselves during these tough economic times. And ultimately, what we're going to see is a continual migration of additional people here, as well as lifting up the people that are here out of poverty through education, opportunity, and employment. And so we need to make sure that we attract businesses here, and we need to get those businesses plugged in the community as well to make sure that we have the foundations for improvement.
Scar, 30 seconds if you'd like.
I think those are all great things, but the reality is, being a state representative means you represent people and not policy. All those things are things that you're supposed to do. They're not unique to you as our current state representative. You work with a coalition of people at the State House to get these things done. This is about representing people and about people who don't feel seen in this community. That's what it's about.
Mr. Frazier, 30 seconds if you'd like.
Mr. Carr believes that it's very easy to pass legislation, that you can come in here with these far ideas and it will magically just manifest itself. It takes hard work, it takes management, it takes dedication to the purpose. That's what I've been able to prove throughout my tenure in public office. It's what I've been able to prove in the private sector, and we continue to deliver the results for the people of Ohio. And when the big change at the state rep side is it's not just your district, it's the entire state of Ohio. I talk a lot of policy because it's important, and you need to get the policy right to get the foundation appropriate.
Gentlemen, thank you for your answers to the questions. We will now have 2 minutes for each of you for a closing statement. There will be no rebuttal after the 2 minutes, and we will start with Mr. Frazier. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Dave. Again, thank you for everybody for watching, for coming, for participating, the other candidates that are after us. I hope they change the questions for you because it's really not fair. But ultimately, what we see is an opportunity to recover have good government, and bring about the changes that we need to see in our community. I'm going to continue to prioritize being there for my constituents, picking up the phone, calling back, and driving legislative solutions in order to get real results for the state of Ohio. It's humbling to be here. You know, a kid that went to Newark High School, lost his father at 15, graduated at Otterbein College, and came back and worked his way up to the banking sector. 2015, I had no ambitions to go into politics. I got a call about 2 days before the petitions were due because nobody would run on the ballot. And they said, would you be willing to run as a dark horse on the ballot? And I said, absolutely. And I managed to win. I managed to get reelected. I got appointed because I was the only person with legislative experience. And I continue to try to drive solutions for the people of Ohio. And you can vote your conscience. That's what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm the only pro-life candidate. I'm the only pro-Second Amendment candidate. And when it comes to the dichotomy of policy and where we stand, it's very evident. And I'm going to continue to represent everybody, those that disagree with me, but you can remain confident that I'm going to work at real solutions that conquer real problems that we see in the state of Ohio. And unless we get a foundation of infrastructure investment, business attraction, and getting people out of poverty in Licking County, then I'm going to fail. If we don't resolve transportation and we don't get the money in the next budget to provide additional transportation, it's probably going to be really tough for me to swallow. But I'm going to try to conquer these solutions that are paramount to our state and provide solutions for you.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier. Mr. Carter, you have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Sure, I'm just gonna read what I was gonna read at the beginning. And so, my campaign slogan, I said as cheesy as it is every person and every voice. I really want to do all I can to raise, again, all the votes of everyone in the district. I want to fight for things like a true living wage, so that when eventually I go to drive-thrus and ask people how many jobs they have, they can say they have one. And I want to fight for that, and that means a higher minimum wage. I want to attract jobs to this district. There's lots of jobs coming to Licking County, but I don't want to give people a good second or third paying job where they make $10 an hour. I want to give them one good paying job that pays benefits and doesn't come from a temp agency. I want to look at things like healthcare. I have a mom who's 67 and she's on a lot of drugs. She's on SSI and she has lived with epilepsy her whole life. And we went to Kroger's the other day to pick up her prescription. And her prescription that was normally $0, covered under her insurance care source, was now $2. And my mother, who doesn't really have to worry because she has a son who will take care of her, right, looked at me. And I don't want people in an aging district like District 71 to worry about having to pay for their prescription drugs. It has to be tackled. And I want people in this district to know that I am here for them in times of crisis, right? I keep talking about, there is a large portion of this community here in Newark that is struggling right now with systemic racism. And as I stand beside them at Black Lives Matter protests and shed tears with them, and where my opponent is nowhere to be found, I want them to know I'm there for them. I want them to know I'm there for them in the middle of a global pandemic, where I show up every day and I wear my mask by leading by example, and I wash my hands and I socially distance. I want the people of this community to know. I want them, and I share all the time, that Mr. Frazier and I are on the same playing field. He's never been elected to this position, and neither am I. He's a householder appointee, has householder money. I don't. You want to talk about voting your conscience? Vote your conscience for somebody who will truly represent the people of this district and not special interest and big money.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and thoughtful answers. How about a nice round of applause for Mr. Frazier and Mr. Carter. And now we would like to have the 4 write-in candidates running for the 71st Ohio District seat, currently held by Larry Householder, to make their way to the stage, please. Guess we should take this moment too to thank the Doubletree for hosting today's candidates forum, and also to Spencer Barker for running the electronic system back there so we can stream this live for folks who are able to make it. my pleasure now to welcome to the stage Jay Conrad, Caitlin Clark, Robert Leist, and Marcy McCauley. It should be noted that the Chamber did invite current Representative Larry Householder to participate in today's forum, but he nor his campaign replied. Again, we will allow each of you 2 minutes for introductory and closing statements and round-robin type approach to 4 questions. You may raise your hand at any time if you have a rebuttal to a candidate's response. You will have 30 seconds for that rebuttal. Does everybody understand the format? Very good. So without further ado, we will get started. Mr. Conrad, you will start. You will have 2 minutes for your introduction,
Do
please.
you want to see the new?
Well, first I want to thank everybody. Can you hear me?
The bottom.
Better? All right, first I want to thank everybody for coming, for being involved. My name is Jay Conrad. I'm a former Marine. I'm a husband to my beautiful wife, Michaela. I have a young son, James, at home, and all of this is for them. You know, it's for the district. And I just really feel like the district's been neglected. Mr. Householder has been so interested in things that aren't the district. Big money, and it doesn't seem like he's interested in any of the real problems that are facing District 72, Licking County, and all the people that just seem to be forgotten. So I'm doing this for them, and I think we have a real opportunity for real change, and I'm ready to be that person to make that change.
Thank you, Mr. Conrad. And I guess I should point out too, if you didn't see, Brittany Meisner with Chambers right here with the time card, so that's kind of where you're going to want to keep your attention as well. Thank you, Mr. Conrad. Okay. Now, Ms. Clark, you have 2 minutes for your introductory speech.
Thank you, Dave. Hello, everyone. My name is Caitlin Clark. I am born and raised Coshocton, Ohio. I'm proud to be from there. And running as a Republican write-in candidate for the 72nd District. Like I said, born and raised in Coshocton, was homeschooled for most of my life. However, I did graduate from Ridgewood High School. And I'm currently wrapping up my degree in International Political Science and Philosophy double major at Ashland University. I have worked in economic development in Coshocton and the surrounding areas for about 3 years now with the Ohio Mid-Eastern Government Association and with the Coshocton Port Authority. I really love our community. That's why I'm running. I love the people of our community, I love the people of our district, and I believe in them. I believe in the things that we do inside of our community. There's a lot of great things that are happening in Coshocton and in Perry and in Licking County. We have dedicated people like the Licking County Chamber of Commerce, the Coshocton Port Authority, and others who really push and get things done in our community. They really do help us get jobs. They really do help us get connected with our infrastructure. And I'm thankful for people like Jennifer who do such hard work for us. However, that doesn't mean that we don't have issues. That doesn't mean that we don't face problems on a day-to-day basis in normal lives. We do face job problems. We do face broadband connectivity issue problems. That's just the fact of the matter. But we need somebody in our state government who's going to represent those people who have the problems and represent the people who are fixing them. It shouldn't just be up to local government to fix the problems that we have. It's all of us together as a community coming together to solve these issues and coming together to push for solutions and understand the problems better. That's why we need state representation. That's why we need quality state representation, and that's what I provide.
Thank you. Mr. Weiss, if you would mind, please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Robert Leist. I was born and raised in Coshocton and lived there all my 51 years. I'm married to my lovely wife, Melissa, for the past 10 years, and I have a wonderful daughter, 8-year-old daughter, Camille. I'm very proud to live in this district in Central Ohio. I chose to stay in this district because I want to raise my family here. I think that it shares common values that I want to emphasize upon my daughter and instill in her. I've worked 31 years at Kraft Heinz, currently serve as a maintenance coordinator. I was union steward for many of those years, and it enhanced my listening and reasoning skills and some negotiating skills as well, which is why I'm proud to say that my union has given me the endorsement of the UFCW. I'm proud to be the working class candidate in this race. I currently serve on the Coshocton Board of Zoning Appeals and the Coshocton County Bike Path Committee. In the past, I've also been elected as a representative of the Libertarian Party for Ohio, Congressional District Number 7. I served on their Central Committee. I also served as a delegate to state and national conventions. I think my reasoning in running for this race is pretty obvious. This year's been chaotic enough without having uncertainty surrounding our representation in this district. Regardless of who's responsible for the fiasco, it's unfortunate and embarrassing for everyone. The restrictions resulting from it has essentially left us without a strong voice to petition on our behalf. I am here to offer that voice.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. And finally, Ms. McCauley, 2 minutes for your introduction, please.
Thank you, Dave. And also I want to thank Jennifer and other members of the chamber, guests that are here today for offering us this opportunity to talk about our candidacy and introduce ourselves to you. As you know, this is a very important race, and I'm happy to be sharing the stage with 3 other people who also understand and believe how important it is that we have a representative for the 72nd District who truly works for the people, who represents the interests and needs and concerns of the people, not special interests, not big business. That's why I decided to enter this race as a write-in candidate for state representative for the 72nd House District. I've lived and worked in Licking and Perry counties for almost 40 years. I've recently retired, and my work was in the fields of mental health, public health, and education. And I'm prepared to take those experiences and my professional training to the State House to work on the issues that I believe are the real issues that are facing people in our communities. And they fall primarily in 3 areas: jobs, education, and healthcare. There are so many pressing needs in each of those areas that I truly believe we need a person in this role who will work for those issues for the people. It's imperative that we address the issues that need to be resolved related to employment. It's important that everybody has an opportunity to work in a safe work environment for a livable wage. It's critical that we support our small businesses and our farmers. We need to make sure that someone stands up for our schools to help reform school funding policies that are leaving some of our schools behind, not having the technology or the infrastructure they really need and deserve. We need to make sure that everyone is guaranteed access to quality, affordable health care. That's why I'm running, to represent you and your needs, to be your voice in the State House.
Thank you very much. We'll get started with our first question, and just as a reminder, you will all have 90 seconds to answer. If you would like 30 seconds for a rebuttal, please raise your hand and we will call. Our first question will go to Mr. Conrad. How will you personally model and promote ethics, integrity, and transparency in government and improve the current negative partisan political environment?
I think that's a great question. Transparency is so important. And after seeing this whole debacle, I think campaign finance transparency is so important. The people need to know who is driving our politicians, our legislators. They need to know where the money is coming from and who's in the pockets of our legislators. Hopefully nobody. I want to be that candidate to make sure that there is transparency. I have nothing to hide. I'm not working for big business, any lobbyists or anything like that. And I think that's important to the people. It's easy to get sidetracked, but being a Marine, my integrity is the utmost importance to me. And I will not sway on my integrity, no matter what, no matter the amount of money. I'm here for the people, and that's all that matters to me.
Ms. Buck, I'll ask you the same question. How will you personally model and promote ethics, integrity, and transparency in government, and improve the current negative partisan political environment?
So I live my life by the motto, love God, love people. And I think that alone brings something to the table. I think loving people and putting people first, especially the people of 72nd District, is what our state representative needs to do. That should be a basic function. I also agree with transparency and integrity. That should be something that all of us should have as just people in our lives living. I would never want to be dishonest with somebody inside my life. I want to tell you the hard truth, and even especially when it's hard, because that's how we come to good solutions. Our problems are hard. We have to face them in order to be better. I believe in building a better future, but that does require us to have these hard conversations and these hard truths, not to get money from big business, not to get dark money from different places. It requires us to work together as a community to get things solved. Things across the aisle, maybe we have partisan debates on different things, but there are things such as broadband, such as job development, that are not partisan issues. These should be bipartisan things that we're discussing inside our legislature, and that's something that our representative for the 72nd District should understand and realize going into the office. You have to be prepared to talk across the aisle for somebody who doesn't agree with your opinion on things to get things solved for all of our communities of Ohio. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Mr. Weiss, I'll repeat the question. How will you personally model and promote ethics, integrity, and transparency in government and improve the current negative partisan political environment?
Well, of course, first and foremost, I tend to lead by example. I think that if you're out there walking the walk, many people will follow. It is something that is a great concern of mine with the events that have unfolded surrounding the incumbent in our district. It has become painfully obvious that reform is necessary. We absolutely cannot allow dark money groups to operate in a manner that's created the fiasco with the HB6. The abuse of 501c4 organizations by these groups, politicians, is repulsive at best. Whether a politician is donating to a social welfare group or not, it should be all included upon an official campaign finance report. We also need to be able to disclose the origins of these bills that are presented. We cannot afford to allow such nefarious influences on our legislature. It must be wholesome and just.
Finally, Ms. McCauley, how will you personally model and promote ethics, integrity, and transparency in government and improve the current negative partisan political environment?
Thank you. Well, I oftentimes think, especially with my work in mental health, about the meaning of the word crisis. And I see it as both a challenge and an opportunity. And so I think the very factors that led us to enter this race as write-in candidates speak directly to the importance of modeling ethical, transparent behavior in this role. And so that's something I'm very committed to in terms of how I handle campaign finance issues, and I agree that we should have some reform in campaign finance laws. But in terms of trying to work to build more bipartisanship and break down some of the polarization that I see in our country and our state, that's where I think I really have the skills that will help me to model that and to accomplish some of those goals. I have experience working in communities on coalition building. I have developed good listening skills, and I think those are the kind of skills that are going to be important. I think, quite frankly, the opportunity to run as a write-in candidate has really allowed me to think more inclusively about a candidacy. And I've been struck by how many similarities there are, spoken by the four of us up here. And I think because we're not as aligned with the political party, we've really been speaking to what are the issues that the people care about. And I think that's what's going to help to really prepare us to work across the aisle for the issues that really are the issues that the people in our district care about and what their needs are. And so building that bipartisanship and rebuilding trust in our government and in our officials is one of the main things that I'll do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCauley. Our second question, we will start with Ms. Clark. What are your thoughts on a repeal and or replacement of House Bill 6, the controversial nuclear bailout law?
Yeah, so as you said, it is a controversial bill. That is fact of the matter. I think we all can agree that there was some sketchy things happening in the background of this bill. I think that there is an intention in Ohio to get clean energy for our communities. There's an intention to be better to our environment and provide better options for the people of our communities when it comes to energy. And I don't think that comes from bailing out First Energy or nuclear projects like this. I am for a repeal of House Bill 6 because I think that no energy company or any big business should be working off the backs of working Ohioans. There's no reason that taxpayer money from working Ohioans in their day-to-day lives should have to go to an energy company that's failing when there are plenty of options that we could be looking at instead. support things like water energy or wind energy or solar energy because I think this is the energy of the future. If we truly want to talk about clean energy, I don't think it starts with House Bill 6. I think it starts with something else.
Thank you. Mr. Weiss, I will ask you the same question. What are your thoughts on a repeal and/or replacement of House Bill 6, the controversial nuclear bailout law?
Well, I firmly believe that HB 6 needs to be repealed and replaced with some significantly different provisions. First and foremost, the public's trust has just been violated. So on that stance alone, I think it needs to be repealed. With the distribution of dark money and whatnot, we need to gain the public trust back. We also cannot allow the corporations to continue to burden these taxpayers. It's all of us. We cannot foot the bill. I fail to understand also how this could be labeled a clean energy bill. We have 2 coal burning power plants included in this bill. One that is not even within our state. So where is the reason? And also the efficiency ratings were allowed to slip. There is no clean energy in this bill, as I can see. I had to watch all this take place, especially with the saving of these coal burning power plants. As the coal burning power plant in Conesville shut down, and the incumbent paid no attention to saving our power plant, saving our jobs, and saving the school system, the tax revenue in District 72. He should serve his constituents.
Finally, we'll repeat the question, finally, but for Ms. McCauley. What are your thoughts on a repeal and/or replacement of House Bill 6, the controversial nuclear bailout law?
Thank you. I believe that House Bill 6 should be repealed. It's another example of what I call a challenge and an opportunity. I think there were many people who knew something about HB 6 before it was passed, but many more of us know more about it now. And I think that's an opportunity for us to craft more appropriate legislation to move us forward to a clean energy future. I think the more we learn about HB 6, the more we understand that it was an attempt to bail out an industry that's probably not where we should be focusing our attention and our money. We have all kind of potential in Ohio to develop solar energy and wind energy and to have meaningful jobs in those industries that can really move us forward, both in terms of better employment opportunities and moving us toward a cleaner future, energy future. So I really believe that HB 6, it's just such an illustration of the abuse of dark money and what happens when special interests rise to the fore. And it was being done on the backs of the consumers. And I think a lot of people didn't understand that this was going to raise their bills, their energy bills. And I think that's one of the things that, again, as a representative, I want to make sure that I'm informing myself and informing my constituents about the implications of these different types of legislation. And HB 6 is a really good example of where we need to learn more and we need to do a better job of moving us to a true clean energy future.
Thank you. Now, finally, Mr. Conrad, I'll repeat the question for you. What are your thoughts on a repeal and/or replacement of House Bill 6, the controversial nuclear bailout?
So I think that it should definitely be repealed. I don't want to sit up here and talk about Larry Householder and the things that he's done. He's going to answer for everything that he's done. I don't think we should continue to talk about that. The people know and they're well aware. So I really want to focus on clean energy. I think there's a real opportunity, especially in our district, in District 72. Wide open space, there's perfect opportunity, excuse me, for solar, wind, etc. And the rural communities, I think, welcome it. I've driven by many, many houses with solar panels on the roofs already in the district. So I think it's a good start. House Bill 6 needs to go, and I think there is a perfect opportunity for replacement. And it needs to be bipartisan. We need to work together, and I think that's the only way to make good legislation, to work together and just
do what's best for Ohio and for the district. I think we have great opportunities, and that's it.
Thank you. No hands raised. We'll move to the next question, and it will be for Mr. Lice. What do you think are the top challenges to businesses in your district, and how would you utilize your position as state representative to address those?
Well, of course, realize that the biggest challenge currently is regarding COVID and the restrictions placed upon small businesses. I'm concerned of how things rolled out initially with the mandates. I had suggested to our senator for the district that we possibly go with fire occupancy restrictions, say a percentage of that, instead of complete closure and allowing big boxes to stay open. It really hamstrung those people, and there's a lot of them that are still trying to recover and try to navigate the PP loans that were available to them. There's many that still haven't reopened. I think that we need to be able to foster some funding from our state legislature to be able to assist those people to reopen and pull back the restrictions on them, especially our restaurants and bars. I think that we should be able to offer permits to have them have seating outside further into streets that may not be quite so busy. So that way there can be more open air dining. That's, I think, would definitely help.
Thank you. Ms. McCauley, what do you think are the top challenges to businesses in your district, and how would you utilize your position as state representative to address them?
Thank you. Two things come to mind for me right now as the top challenges facing our businesses. One is dealing with the COVID pandemic, and the other is the lack of access to adequate broadband in many of our areas. So the first is one that I'm keenly aware of how it's affected small businesses in our communities. And I watched as one of a new business was about to open, and they had announced a soft opening the day before DeWine announced the shutdown. And I watched what happened to this person, and I watched their resilience and their creativity and how they came back and opened the coffee shop next door as a way of at least beginning to have business as a viable alternative. But our small businesses are hurting, and I think that's one of the things that would be a priority for me, is to make sure that we're doing all we can to help them access the support they need. And then in terms of access to broadband, that's something I know many of us have talked a lot about, and we realize we've got to get this done. We've been talking about it for a long time. This is critical to our businesses, it's critical to our schools, it's critical to people that want to start a new business, entrepreneurs, it's people that want to work remotely, and this ties in with the coronavirus. Because this is one of the challenges, that if you want to work remotely, you have to have reliable access to internet. And the same if you're running a small business. And so these are some of the things I think are most important to address.
Thank you. Mr. Conrad, I will repeat the question for you. What do you think are the top challenges to businesses in your district, and how would you utilize your position as state representative to address them?
So I believe that the mandates have just killed small business. District 72 is built on small business. Countless businesses, 1 in 5 businesses, are closing due to this pandemic and due to the mandates. Vice President Pence said last night that we need to trust the American people, trust them to make the right decisions for themselves, for their families, and their communities. And I don't think we've been given that opportunity. We've been given mandates. We've been told that we have to do something. Big box stores are allowed to stay open and continue to operate exactly how they are. You walk in Walmart, 25% of people are wearing masks, and most of them aren't even wearing them right. So we have small businesses that could do the same exact thing, and they're not allowed to do so. So rolling back some of those mandates, allowing people to make their own decisions and be responsible for themselves, I think is paramount. And infrastructure, ensuring that we do have the broadband internet for those businesses. There's plenty of opportunity for more jobs, and big business is looking into how much more productive people are at home. So our district is perfect for things like that. With more broadband, we'll have more people working from home, more productive, and more job opportunity in the 72nd district.
I think, Ms. Clark, I will ask the same question. What do you think are the top challenges to businesses in your district, and how would you utilize your position as state representative to address them?
Thank you, Dave. So I think there are three. I think two of them have already been talked about: COVID response, broadband, and economic development and loans in general. When specifically talking about small businesses, as Conrad and Natalia both said, it is a problem. The restrictions have closed down small businesses. I love the fact that our small businesses are getting creative. They can have certain times, clothing businesses can have certain times people come in. The Newark Advocate ran an article about Licking County small businesses getting creative during that time. But really, how are we supporting small businesses during the coronavirus? I think the PPP loans are a great start. I think getting them back working is the next step. We have to make sure that the restrictions that we're putting on our counties and on our communities can be tailored to fit the needs of those communities specifically. A mandate doesn't work for the individual. That's not a plausible solution to our problem. We need to make sure that we are keeping workers back in our areas. When it comes to broadband, that's connectivity, that's infrastructure. We can't get jobs inside of our communities until we have the infrastructure to bring them in. I know Tiffany Swagger in Coshocton does a great job of bringing businesses to Coshocton, but the fact of the matter is we can't have her do her job if we can't give the people of Coshocton the infrastructure they need first. And the last one is economic development in general. There are just a lot of moving factors that come with economic development, but I think it's important to look into all factors that really apply to businesses and small businesses in general.
Our final question will go to Ms. McCauley first. Prior to the pandemic, our county had a record low unemployment rate. Even now, many of our local businesses are having trouble hiring qualified workers. What would you propose to help attract workforce to the district and upskill the current workforce?
Thank you. That's another important question. And I realize as we're thinking about the crisis we're facing and how it's affecting business, we have to also be always thinking to the future. As we have to think about what kind of jobs are appropriate, what kind of new employers will be a good fit for our district. And I think we've talked a bit about already some of the like solar and wind kind of opportunities. And so we have to also be thinking ahead about what kind of training and education will those future employees need. So how do we develop some of the programs through our technical schools and through our colleges to help prepare people? And how do we attract people that don't already live here to come here because they're going to see great opportunities? They can come here as students, they know they'll be able to stay here as employees because we're going to work to develop the kind of job opportunities, the kind of employment opportunities that really move us into the future with jobs that are having, again, a livable wage and safe working conditions. So there's all kinds of opportunities to develop business like that and bring that business into our district. Our district has a lot of potential for people that want work. And so the key is to find the kind of jobs, find the kind of industries that will fit that, and then provide the training and educational pathway to move people into those positions. So not only will they want to stay here, but people will actually be moving here for those opportunities.
Mr. Conrad, I'll repeat the question for you. Prior to the pandemic, our county had a record low unemployment rate. Even now, many of our local businesses are having trouble hiring qualified workers. What would you propose to help attract workforce to the district and upskill the current workforce?
So I'll go back to the infrastructure. So I think we can work with our Public Works Commission. As townships and cities, villages in the district, as they redo their roads, they can install small things like conduit. They can make it very easy for our broadband companies to come in and actually lease that conduit or just go ahead and put their infrastructure in there. It'll already be there, one less thing that those companies will have to worry about. Once that is brought to the rural communities, people don't want to be in big cities. So we have the perfect district to have people work from home. Once we have that infrastructure there, like I said before, people are more productive when they're working from home. There's been multiple studies that have proven that. So being out away from the big city, it'll be nice for people and very attractive for people to to work from home and the opportunities there. Again, clean energy, I think we have plenty of space, plenty of opportunity to do that. And with that, it's going to take maintenance, it's going to take installation, and long-term maintenance as well. So if we hire tradesmen, we push trades and get the people there that want to do those jobs, that we need to do those jobs, there is plenty of long-term job opportunity in the district and in Ohio.
Ms. Clark, I will repeat the question. Prior to the pandemic, our county had a record low unemployment rate. Even now, many of our local businesses are having trouble hiring qualified workers. What would you propose to help attract workforce to the district and upskill the current workforce?
I think it's education at its most basic level. I think providing the opportunity for people in this county and in this district is of utmost importance as a representative. I think it comes down to education and affordability of education, because while everybody in this county may have an opportunity to go to a school and may have a school within driving distance, maybe they don't have the transportation that they need to get to that school. Maybe they don't have the money that they would need in order to pay for their own education. And I think that puts us at a disadvantage. We need to really be paying attention to what people are struggling with when it comes to businesses and jobs inside of our communities, and I think that does come down to education. I think community colleges, technical schools, licensure programs, and other colleges, universities going out, those are all great options, but how do we address the specific needs of the people who can't access those right now in our communities? Do we have the Columbus to Pittsburgh corridor finished? No, we don't. Do we have the broadband and infrastructure needs for people to do schooling from home or to even do remote work from home? No, we don't. We're trying to fix those issues. We're trying to address those, but we can't do it alone. We need somebody who's going to advocate for us in our state government, who will bring us quality representation and talk to us about the problems that we're having currently, not just suppose they know the problem when they get there.
Mr. Weiss? Prior to the pandemic, our county had a record low unemployment rate. Even now, many of our local businesses are having trouble hiring qualified workers. What would you propose to help attract workforce to the district and upskill the current workforce?
Well, I definitely want to cultivate an economic environment that protects small businesses, attracts manufacturing, and continues to support the farm and agricultural industry in Ohio. Farming industry in Ohio contributes over $100 billion to our economy. 1 out of 8 people employed in the state work within that industry. I think it's imperative that we can continue to support the farming industry in Ohio. I think one thing that might be able to play into that is investing in, at least investigating into the idea of hemp plastics. I think we have farmland. We definitely have the vacant manufacturing space to be able to process and to create hemp plastics and also be green for our economy as well. I also want to improve the digital infrastructure, as many have stated. It's just we've had our kids lose out on their education earlier in the year. I think if we invest in our digital infrastructure with House Bill 13, which has, I believe, $20 million worth of grants available with that. If we get that and expand it, we will have educational, recreational, and occupational advantages in the future for Ohio.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your thoughtful answers. We will now have 2 minutes for your closing statements and thoughts. And again, there will be no rebuttal. This will just be the candidates speaking on their statements and thoughts. And we will start with Ms. McCauley.
Thank you. And again, I want to thank the Chamber and thank the guests and those that are watching at home or maybe watching later. Thank goodness you have access to broadband and you may be able to do that. And thanks to the other write-in candidates that are here today. I started by talking about why I entered this race. And it was circumstances that certainly none of us would have anticipated, I think, or wished upon our district to have the current indictment that's in place on bribery charges. But as I said before, I see that crisis as a challenge and an opportunity. It's brought forth 4 individuals who really care about the people. And you've heard a lot about the issues that are important within our district. So I think it's wonderful that we have an opportunity to vote for someone else other than the person who's listed on the ballot. But the other thing I want to talk about is the COVID crisis, because I mentioned jobs, education, and healthcare before. Those were already needs in our district. But I think what the COVID crisis has done is kind of pulled back the curtain and revealed even more clearly some of the needs and some of the vulnerabilities in each of those areas. Whether it be talking about the small businesses that we have, who now more than ever need the support, need someone who's looking out for them. If it be the schools, more than ever, we need to be sure that we have the infrastructure, the technology that the students and teachers and staff deserve. They need the support to make sure everybody's safe in those schools and they're able to connect, whether it be in the classroom or remotely. And with healthcare, more than ever, it's important that we ensure that everybody has access to affordable, quality healthcare, and that they have access to broadband so they can utilize telemedicine as well. So I think that the coronavirus has just made it even clearer why each of these areas is important to be addressed at the State House.
Thank you. Mr. Weiss, your turn, 2 minutes.
I've been traveling and campaigning, meeting a ton of people across the district in the past months. Met with mayors, council members, trustees, commissioners, and many, many other folks. And quite frankly, I'm appalled that they all, many stated that they've had no contact with their representation at the state level. I want to change that. I want to look into having district meetings with all the local leaders. I want mayors, trustees. We should be able to get together and share each knowledge from each city, each township. We should be able to compare what resources we have available that sometimes they only use a few weeks out of the year to share across and save taxpayer money. I also want to bridge a gap between not only in the state legislature, but the local governments in that respect. I believe my experience as a convention delegate shows that I can petition the floor of the State House much in the same as I petitioned for votes regarding bylaws and candidates. I believe that experience sets me apart from the other candidates. I have been exposed to political doublespeak. I can identify it, and I will not be misled. My knowledge in working with diverse groups of people and fostering cooperation will be a peak asset in this seat. Listen, I'm just going to be blunt. In order for there to be workable and sustainable change in our communities, you need a representative that's not distracted by political infighting or legal troubles. Our promise to you is that I will always make sure that the needs of Coshocton, Licking, and Perry counties are fought for at state level. I will listen to the citizens and local leadership, take their concerns seriously, and make sure those concerns are addressed in Columbus. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Clark, you have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Thank you, Dave. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody who's come out today and those of you who are listening or watching online, because I think discussions like this are important. It's important for you to hear from all of your options. And it's important for you to make an informed decision. I think that's a staple of the American system, which I truly appreciate. This time is uncertain. We have COVID. We have so many problems facing our communities and facing us in our day-to-day lives. But it's times like this that show the strength of our district and the strength of our people. We can come together, we can solve these problems, and we can build a better future, and we can choose our representation on every level of government. We have issues like communication between state government and local officials. We have issues such as funding for our education, which was ruled unconstitutional for our public education system, the funding in 1997, and still hasn't been fixed. These are issues I want to be able to address at our state government for the people of our communities, because you deserve better. Your right to representation does not outweigh the right of somebody in court. Larry Hausler will have his day in court, but you have the right to have somebody who will speak for your needs today. And that's what I want to do for you. I thank you all for getting out and saying your part, for going out and voting, because that's truly what it comes down to, is the community members being heard at all points of government, especially state government.
Thank you. Finally, Mr. Conrad, 2 minutes.
First, I just want to thank everybody again. Thanks for having us. It's been fantastic. I really love these conversations. I do think that they're important for our democracy. As your state representative, I'm going to bring the infrastructure. I'm going to bring the broadband. I'm going to support our police, our fire departments. I'm going to ensure they have everything that they need to do their jobs. One thing that hasn't been mentioned tonight is the opioid epidemic. It's still here. We still have people overdosing every single day. That's something that cannot be overlooked. And we have to support our law enforcement and make sure that they can do their jobs when it comes to that. They have to keep our community safe. And right now, this is a really hard time for our police departments, for our police officers. They're looked down on. A lot of them, they don't feel like they're supported. So it's a thankless job, and I want to thank those guys today. More important than any of those things, I just want to let you know that I won't break your trust. I promise that I won't be corrupt. Like I said before, my integrity is everything to me. And you, the district, you are so important to me. I'm part of the district. I'm raising a 9-month-old son. I want to make sure he has every opportunity that any other district has to grow up and be successful. I think we have that ability, and as your state representative, I'll ensure that you and your children have those same abilities. There's going to be no more corruption, and I really want to restore trust to the district and to the House of Representatives. And again, I just want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Thanks.
Mr. Conrad, Ms. Clark, Ms. McCauley, and Mr. Weiss, thank you so much for your time and thoughtful answers. I'll have a nice round of applause for. I'd like to take this time to thank everyone who's tuning in on Facebook Live, and for those here in attendance for the Licking County Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum. I hope you found this debate informative. Early voting is going on right now. Election day is November 3rd. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much.